fall in line with that. I think I may need to have, let me just see if I can share.
Access to share.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's good.
Oh, hang on. Oh, sorry. What can you see?
Can you see your PowerPoint screen? Yep. Smoking and vaping research. Lovely.
Yep.
Presentation mode. Nice.
Yeah, excellent. So what I thought I would do today is to be able to share with you what the research side of it has been and is happening in Tasmania. And this will allow everyone in the group to be able to ask for different reports that are available, or we can maybe explore ways that we can work together to progress some of the research. I did want to acknowledge our Palawan Pakana people in Lituita and Nipaluna, where I was born and bred. I love Tasmania, land, sky and seas, and I'm so grateful of the care of the country. And this image means a lot to me because it just shows how many years, 60,000+ years, Aboriginal culture has cared for our country compared to colonisation, and acknowledge that land was never ceded. This is not new to anyone on this group, but I just thought I would raise it anyway. So when we started the Tobacco 21 research, which was around the 2019, this is what the percentage of current smokers was at the time, and it has changed a little bit now, but the point being that 2/3 of smokers will die of a disease caused by their smoking, and that's been discussed today. We know that nearly all adult smokers try their first cigarette before they're 21, as do the tobacco industry. So tobacco industry have been quoted saying that they can't maintain their business if young people stop smoking. And we've had a discussion today about all the different ways that trying to keep young people addicted, because we know the transition to daily smoking occurs in that young adult period. And of course, in the last 5 years, particularly in Tasmania, when I did the tobacco research around 2019, 2020, young people were not interested in e-cigarettes, so very much focused still on tobacco, the people we spoke with. And vaping is now addicting young people who already are 3 times more likely to smoke, that we know. So we've had a group of researchers. I did want to acknowledge them at the College of Health and Medicine, and our current team is Rashida, Monika, Nicola. We've got a PhD student starting in May, and of course Shauna, who's been leading the way for a long time, but I joined Shauna in 2019. So this is just a quick snapshot, and I know a lot of you have been around for a long time and probably were involved with some of this, but 2014 to 2016 was when Ivan first put up the private members bill for tobacco-free generation. Shauna was involved in the provision of evidence around that to the select committee, and that didn't get up. Around 2017 to 2019, Ivan put up another on Tobacco 21 to raise the minimum age of selling tobacco to 21, and there was limited evidence at that time, and that's when funding was received from the Minderoo Foundation, and that's when I came in to do the Tobacco 21 research and inform the MLC debate. I've got a bit of that research to show you here, and while that didn't get through, there was a commitment of funding to public health services towards working with young people. Kim Roberts is now working in that space along with the tobacco team in public health services. And in 2022, we saw the Tobacco Action Plan being launched, which was part of the Tobacco 21 research informed that plan. And then we did some research with 18 to 24-year-olds. And we also did a literature review of current evidence around smoking and vaping cessation, particularly with young people. So a lot of our work is in the young people space. And then this year we're doing some further research with the 12 to 18-year-olds, and we're also working with Cecilia in the vaping and smoking cessation in rural areas. And our PhD student is going to revert back to our Tobacco 21 research and see if we can fill some gaps and build on what was done there. In particular, she's going to analyse the Hansard debate that occurred to see if we can find out, you know, what happened in that space to help us inform political agendas. And the other thing that I was going to say about that, in that this smoking cessation in rural areas and with priority populations is something in particular I'd love to talk more to the group about. So what we did with the Tobacco 21 research was a program of research across 4 areas. We looked at the prevalence data for young people, and we used a few different sources of information because we wanted to find out where the gaps are, because the ASAD data, 12 to 17-year-olds, was particularly focused on mainstream schools, and we know that there's a gap because a lot of young people not attending mainstream schools are more likely to smoke. So we did a mixed method approach using interviews and surveys with young people, but also stakeholders, including those who work directly with young people. And we also had a look at the evidence for the Tobacco 21 legislation approach, which was mainly occurring in the US, but also in a couple of other countries as well. And I won't go through all of this, but there are reports I can share based on each of these areas. We found there's some evidence that does exist for the effectiveness of T21, and Jackie, our PhD student, will top up that systematic literature review to find out what else has come out in the last 5 years. There was good support for T21 across stakeholders and community, including young people, including young smokers. And we found out that young smokers in Tasmania are similar to those elsewhere. So that means that we can look at adapting evidence base from other areas into Tasmania with some work on making it locally meaningful. And that the Tobacco 21 was more likely going to influence experimenters rather than regular users. This slide was just because I thought everyone might find it interesting. And this was some associations that we found through some statistical testing factors that associated smoking in young people, including education, attainment, and higher personal income. And that's those young people are starting to get work and they don't really have many responsibilities, and they don't own a property yet. The older age groups, this is 12 to 24, and so those in the older bracket, Indigenous, those who experience anxiety or trauma, parents who smoked, greater number of friends and family who smoked, where they're still in that those pockets of community where it is normalised. And this is consistent with studies elsewhere in Australia and international. Then this piece of research that we did was 18 to 24-year-olds, and we found that there was limited knowledge, but access was easy for young people in this age bracket. And the reason we started off with 18 to 24-year-olds is because they were shown to be the highest lifetime users in 2019, and Public Health Services were interested in us starting with that age group. And we use mixed methods to understand knowledge, beliefs, and access. And what we found through, so we did an online survey and interviews. We analysed 578 interviews from across the regions and spoke with 30 young people. And what we found was that that there was a high number of daily or almost daily users, and women and never smokers were more likely to use it infrequently, but there was a number of young people who never were planning to smoke cigarettes now vaping, and former smokers, which is interesting because Tina brought this up with her case study, were more likely to use vaping daily and more likely to start vaping once they've already managed to give up cigarette smoking. Types of devices, and again, I'm sure this is, you know, anecdotally known, but that's good to get research to support it, that non-smokers and women favoured disposables and smokers and men preferred rechargeables. We know that most people using nicotine-containing cigarettes, e-cigarettes, obtaining a prescription for an e-cigarette was rated as a bit difficult, but most of the time they were getting these through online or telehealth options. And there was a range of reasons for using e-cigarettes, and you can see that there was around 10% to cut down smoking and a very small amount to actually quit smoking. It was more so because it's seen as healthier. They were curious, they enjoy it, and to use when I'm not allowed to, that they like that thrill of doing something they're not allowed to. And in the interviews, we had 5 themes that emerged. And again, this switching not to quit came up a lot. The curiosity of just stuff at why not with young people, because they didn't see it as being a harmful risk. Easy to get, easy to hide. So accessibility, availability, versatility, all the things. They found it really easy to access, and actually young people, the 12 to 18-year-olds, agreed with this sentiment absolutely. And they're like, it's really easy to get, but it's really hard to find information to stop. Short-term effects were experienced, both good and bad. They love the head spins, more so than the coughing and the headaches that they're getting, and the knowledge was varied. So we found that they're using to quit smoking tobacco, but not to quit nicotine. Easy for young people to access, so easy. Our young kids are so resourceful. Socialising is very central to how they're used. A lot of uncertainty about e-cigarettes in general, and of course it supports the federal changes. But what the young people said very clearly is they thought messages should be relevant to them locally, non-judgmental, and informed and designed with young people. So then we've moved on to the 12 to 18-year-olds. This is a little bit different. It's exploratory plus action research attached. And what we've done so far is action cycle 1. These are just preliminary results. Mix of school types, genders and regions across Tasmania. Very similar. Why young people are vaping: curious, taste nice, fits in, to fit in with peers, novelty, feels good, easy to hide, get and use, addiction and anxiety and stress. And interestingly, a few people are saying, like, the school toilets, everyone knows that's the place to go, but there's a fair bit of pressure when people go in there to at least have a puff. Otherwise you'll get a bit of ear grief. And young people are hiding them in cisterns, and the girls are hiding them in the sanitary bins, and as well as lots of other places. Social situations drive the use of vaping. Access is so easy and it's part of the thrill, and there's a lot of appeal. It was always designed to appeal to young people and not older adults. They're not concerned about the bans, and interestingly enough, picking up on the point from before, that young people are seeing a move to tobacco, and these are young people that were never going to smoke tobacco. They've tried vaping, and now they're possibly going to move to tobacco, who would have never smoked. They provided a lot of comments about images and videos that have been fed back to Quit Tasmania to inform their social media campaign. And then they're starting to provide us with some insights about what would support them to give up as a young person. And they were very keen about being involved. And we're still looking for support to promote this piece of research if anyone is able to connect with me afterwards. And alongside of this, we're doing some work with Cecilia to look at reducing smoking products in rural Tasmania. We want to co-design a program. I explain this as a Fibonacci spiral, that the way I do my work is I connect with people, get their voice, their thoughts about what's locally meaningful, and then bring in evidence-based that we know what works and avoid what doesn't, and try to bring those two pieces together. This is for 15 plus priority populations, specifically in rural areas. So that's what I've got. I'm happy to sort of flick back over any slides, or I can stop the slideshow and take any questions or discuss on how we may be able to work together with any groups with either of those current projects.
Thanks so much, Susie. That was really interesting. I got some emails from Nicola and Monica. So I forwarded those to a few community service organisations that did the smoke-free projects with us. And also I used to be chair of our board about young women. So I forwarded it to them and they'll distribute to that population too, hopefully. So it'll get out there slowly but surely. We have questions from Tina. And Jessica.
You
Tina,
just
you're on mute.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Two things. Money, cost. I didn't see that come up, and that's one of the things that comes up quite a lot when I'm talking to community, when I'm trying to justify them not being on vapes, is they're so cheap and I've got a person because I'm like, well, how are you getting them? And then, oh, I've got connections, I've got a person, and it's just so cheap. And I didn't see that in any of your with the young people, that it was a cost thing for them.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting point that you make, Tina, but when we're working with the 12 to 18-year-olds, it did come up more so with the older group. So there's two things there, cost and access. The access is just easy. Like, I mean, Snapchat's the biggest one. That they have, you know, tags that they share. But for young people 12 to 18, we need to remember that they haven't been smokers. So they don't have a comparison of cost. Those who have been smokers are definitely like, it is so much easier, it's so much cheaper to get a vape. You know, like we've asked young people about the equivalent. So young people have told us it's about 10 puffs a cigarette you get 10 puffs per cigarette. So when we've compared like a 4,000 puff vape, that's 400 cigarettes. And there has been commentary for those who have smoked before. It is so much cheaper to vape. But we're doing a really great job at getting the smoking rates down. So for a lot of people, they don't have a comparison because they haven't smoked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it like that. And so my other question is, and this is probably a bit judgmental, putting my judgmental hat on, but for some reason, and I was only walking downtown with a colleague the other day, and without me knowing, they pulled out their vape and they were vaping as we were walking down the street. Next minute I can smell some fruity smell, and the first thing I go is, oh, I don't want to breathe that in, or I don't even go, I go trying to not breathe it in, and I'm thinking, oh, I don't get a choice. But for some reason, all of our vaping people think that it's okay, and I don't know if we should have some media or ads on telly saying, you know, yes, it may smell really nice, and yes, it's this, but it's no different for somebody. Don't take away the choice for everybody else. I see them in the mall. They think suddenly now they can smoke in the mall with their vapes. They're walking down the street. They'll be sitting in a restaurant and they think it's okay. I went to someone's birthday up in North Hobart the other week, and people vaping everywhere and they think, oh, I'm vaping, I'm not smoking. And so I don't know, is it that we need to get better media or stories or saying it's no different? We don't want it, the people that choose not to smoke don't want it around them. Be considerate and use it as the same as you would a smoke. Go to the smoking, but they don't want to smell a smoke either, so they don't want to go out to the smoking area, but they think it's okay to sit beside you as you're finishing your drink and have a vape. I don't know, the expectation of what they're doing is really different.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. There are so many anecdotes of that, and the Public Health Service team are developing signs that make it very clear, and they're doing work, outside of this research on addressing that issue. And the other interesting thing about that is there hasn't been a clear evidence pathway about the harms, like the passive vaping issues. And Rashida in our team has started a review of papers around passive vaping to be able to highlight that issue. As you can, doing a review takes a long time. So on little buckets of money, it's one of those things that we do in our spare time. But the search has been done, and we've got a collection of papers. And I think that's the other thing, is you need to have the evidence to be able to say, no, actually, we do know that this is an issue. Yeah. And previously it's been do we know that passive vaping is a thing? But that's absolutely agree with you.
There's I know in my training, there's something on the American Lung Association where there has been some research done, and it talks about the tiny particles. And I think a big one of that too is people still have this misconception that it's vapor, not an aerosol. And once you start, and it's Kim Roberts who first said about that, put water in your hair, it's soft, put aerosol in your hair, you can feel something. And I find that message is really powerful. But it's interesting how that is one thing people just don't seem to realize. But it'll be interesting to see what you find there, Susie, just in all the evidence, because I think I read somewhere where people are noticing where people vaping a lot on the walls. You can wipe the walls and see that difference. So I guess it's slowly, we'll spread that message.
Yeah, definitely. And it's an important one to spread, because one thing that has come out through a lot of research, and also with what young people are saying, is people may not take it on for themselves, but they worry about how it may affect others. So I think that's going to be a really powerful hook for us to weave in. But if anyone's interested in being part of the review paper, we're happy to sort of, share that around. I mean, the search has been done. It's just a matter of now going through all the papers and then writing it up.
Oh, that's all? Just that?
How did I sell that?
Jessica, you got a question?
Yeah, sorry, probably two things. Just the first is a statement. Toilet cisterns and sanitary bins. Oh, I can't. It's just revolting. Keeping vapes in there. So thank you for horrifying me with that one. But I work with DZIP, and I'm doing a lot of the work around vaping. And I think Kelly, my boss, said that you had made contact. So I was just going to say, sorry, quickly, it would be good to catch up outside of this meeting, maybe, and make a meeting time for the three of us, if that's possible, please.
Amazing. Yeah. Yes. Otherwise, Kelly's going to think I'm going to be stalking her because I.
No, but I'll catch up. I'll send you an email and we'll make a time.
Oh, great.
All right, because
Thank
that would
you.
be good. We did. I've done some work with Rashida and Kim, and we were at my colleague and I were up at the PIAC session in Launceston. So, and I just think it's fascinating. It's so helpful to know what's happening, and so that's how, in terms of how our team then address some of this with our young people. So cool. Thank you. That was it.
Another little bit of information which is alarming and scary is in this in our travels around, we did hear in a particular region that some health nurses are seeing some issues around herpes, because young people are also hiding them down their pants and then sharing.
I heard about that.
Oh, shivers. No, I heard hers, but I hadn't even put together hiding them in their pants. Oh, my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good one to know, because when we're tackling our education and working with young people
Yeah.
and trying to look at some of the things that might be a pull, yeah, I guess, wow.
Mm. That is a
Yeah,
good
so-
one to know. Yeah.
I can't get past Melissa's face.
So, I'd be no good at poker. Cecilia, your go.
Just wondering, and probably, Irena, this is more for you around communities that were initially using shisha. I know around the Middle East and more particularly around, New South Wales. What are we finding now? Is there more vaping now that it's sort of kind of cool, or are they still continuing, say, with shisha, and in the past has quit done any work around the health effects of shisha? Because I'm thinking
No.
shisha, vaping, yeah.
No, yeah, I don't know how much of that is in Tasmania. I think it is. And no, we haven't. And interesting enough, because I did some training with the Migrant Resource Centre in Lonnie, and that came up, but I can't answer that. When I talked about vaping in the community, there doesn't appear to be lots of that. It's still smoking, seems to be the predominant one. But for me, sorry, no, I can't answer that. I don't have knowledge around that, because it's something that hasn't come up with us when we go out. And I find even when I'm doing training with community service organisations, which is kind of where I sit, and being aware of what comes through with the quit line, it's really still a lot about tobacco. And partly for that with me is that people who are accessing community, unless they're youth focused, are accessing community service organisations, they're often older people who have a history of smoking. So the vaping still hasn't come through to that. So it's kind of, but I don't know. But it's certainly not something that's ever come up. I worked out the other day, I've trained over 500 workers and nobody's ever brought it up except ones that the MRC are now use. So yeah, not something we've put any energy into, but I will file that away and look it up. Yeah. Tina, do you come across any? No.
I know it's common
I don't
among
even know
Middle
what it
Eastern.
is.
Shisha,
Isn't it
it's
homegrown?
similar. No, it's similar to
chewing?
vaping, but it's common in Middle East
Yeah.
community.
Oh, is
so
that
it's
that?
just sitting, the
Yeah.
water one where you just the
Yes.
pipe.
Yes, I
So
didn't
I'm
know
just
what that was
thinking
called.
about that, and I know there's probably people who might think, well, and the reason why I'm saying things is probably if might be of interest to look at what other states with maybe bigger migrant groups from that community within the young cohorts, there might be comparable, like, this is not different from a shisha, and therefore are we finding that young people are taking vaping easily, or is it time now for the TGA to also go a bit strict on shisha joints venues, because if communities haven't been educated on the health effects, it is a cultural practice, yes, we agree, but are there health effects around something like that?
I think that's what sorry, I think that's what I've seen. I've seen that on TV, and whenever I'm with community, they seem it's a tradition. And so because it's not part of our tradition, they haven't thought about doing it. But I've heard my husband say, I'd love to go to Turkey and try that. I'm like, I'd like to go to Turkey and you won't be trying that. So, yes.
But I know Quit Victoria does have some, so Quit Victoria, obviously there's much more, they do have info on that. I think even on their website maybe. So they would be looking at that. And again, because they have much more of those, a much bigger multicultural population there. And again, Quit Victoria's got, like we're 8 people in our team, they've got 45 or something. So there's so there would be, I think that would be one way to go. But it just not something that's come up in Tasmania up to now, or is not being voiced, I suppose.
One less thing to worry about, I guess.
Or one more thing to find out more about and realize, oh gosh, I've got to educate myself. The whole vaping thing's been so huge, as we all know. It's just such a moving feast all the time. Well, not a feast, but oh, it's hard. Anyway, sorry, I can't help.
No, I'm just aware of the time. We're at 10:45. Arena, did you have a few slides, or do you want to talk us through the?
Well, I don't know if
legislation?
are people aware of the reforms and what's happening at the moment? I think
I've got a TGA link, so I'll put that in the chat. That's got a summary of it.
what's this?
A link to the TGA. They have a
Yeah, and that's
reasonable
exactly
summary.
what I was going to read out because I thought that's where it is. So basically, I mean, single-use disposables have been banned, and yes, people can still access them because people were able to sell them. There's the special access scheme now, so it's easier to get prescriptions written up. And then from the 1st of March, yes, so people basically can't import their own vapes anymore. It's all the prescription model. I think is everybody across that? I don't feel, yeah, I think just feel looking at who's here. Going to the TGA one is the best. And then there's the bill before Parliament at the moment around, which one is that? The therapeutic goods and other legislation amendment around, the bill which will prohibit the importation, domestic manufacture, supply, commercial possession and advertisement of non-therapeutic and disposable vaping goods. But that's going to be the next thing that we'll hear about, but that's in front of a committee at the moment, and I think in May we might know more about that, so that'll be interesting. And I suppose, it's funny talking about the reforms in a way because it's kind of up there, but we're all dealing with very much on the ground what's happening in that real kind of everyday space. And yes, the thing that young people can get their vape so easily still, all that stuff is, going to be what we're fighting, I think. Black market stuff, easy supply, high rates of nicotine, how we're going to deal with all that. Yeah. Sorry, that's not very useful, but yes, I looked up the TGA. I thought that's where it all is nice and clear for people. So if you've got the link to that, that's good.
Does anyone know if there's any plans to do some education around, for example, GPs to be able to link young people accessing prescription vapes? Because I know prescription vapes have been around for a long time, but there has been confusion with the GPs. Young people who are addicted had said that they tried to contact their GP and they're like, you're under 18, we can't help you.
Good point.
I know that
the special access. Yeah, no, you go, Tina.
You're right, Arena.
Oh, just the special access scheme. There's got to be education around that because that's for nurse practitioners and medical practitioners. So I'd imagine that there must be education around that for them. But I think, or we have found, I think, Tina, you've got your supply through your organisation, but there's a lot of information lacking around doctors, around NRT and all that stuff anyway with doctors. I think, I know that, and the RACGP, I would imagine, is doing something that, but I don't know. Sorry, Tina, you go, because I'm just don't knowing.
Yeah, when that prescription stuff first come out, I was very, nope, TAC is not doing it. We're not being a provider. I don't want any part of it. And work followed me on that and went, yep, okay, Tina, you're the expert in this. And I went with it. And my medical director, I was a couple of months ago, was in the waiting area and discussion started about it. And she said, I think there's special circumstances. And I was like, no, there's not. I don't care. We're not doing it. And then she said, well, I think we need to be open that sometimes. And I was like, no, we're not doing it. If there was somebody dying and they wanted to have a acid trip, or we wouldn't go, let's go and get it for you and make your day a lot better. So why would I do that around vaping? And then Dr. Dye said, look, like if somebody is, if there's a danger around having smokes around, breathing, oxygen tanks and things like that, and they're not going to stop, then we really need to think about what are the other options about keeping them safe. And I said, okay. So I changed that to, okay, as long as the doctors that this is a better health outcome for the client and that's all we're doing. And so I've given a bit, but I'm still the TAC, we're not going to be the guinea pigs. I don't want to be part of that. I would much rather sit down and do it a consult with somebody and look at all the options on an individual basis instead of going, let's just open it up for everybody. But from what I hear, people are getting it. And I don't think half the people that we would see would come in and get the script to go and get the medical stuff anyway, because it's not fancy. It won't have all the flavouring. It's not what they're after. So I don't think me saying let's become a provider of the script-based vaping would be taken up as much as the hot stuff they can get that tastes real good and has all
And
the packaging.
that's really interesting. Yes, so multi-layered, isn't it? Yeah,
And I
because
think,
people
like
love the flavors, they love all that. Yeah,
Irina mentioned before, and Tina's example just there, it shows it's a very organic space, and people, you have to have that open mind and I hate using this word, pivot as necessary on individual circumstances. Yeah.
and I think the nicotine dependence for me is such a huge thing as an ex-smoker. And as someone who's been around people who've done the whole thing of getting off harder drugs and everything, I have such a compassion for people around that nicotine dependence. And I don't know how doctors would be and whatever. And again, while people are in really tough circumstances, all kinds of things play into this. Why do people use this, that, and whatever? And so it's difficult, I think. I keep on coming back. Sorry, I'm a socialist, but the social determinants of health still lie there. It's big stuff. People are in such different situations. So for me, but I get where you're coming from, Tina, and I think because you work within that community and you have your level of the way you work, your model is so strong. It's fabulous. And I think it gives you avenues that maybe aren't necessarily so easy because you've got that support. So many people who don't have support. Yeah. And it's lovely when you say, yes, come in and I can do a session with you. If we could have that for everybody, it would be so awesome. Yeah. So the reality, the real life out there for people too is something. Yeah.
You go, Cecilia?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on this one, Tina. No, I think I had the health minister say people are using vaping as a prescription to quit smoking. I'm like, don't sell it like that. But on a local level, I think Melissa, if anyone comes across, it would be good to know what the RCGPA guidelines are on prescription for vaping. And then I think locally we need to
I'll have a
know
look. Yeah.
sort of what the doctors in the States are saying. Are they willing? Because this was raised in a meeting that I attended a couple of months ago with PHS, and I think we had someone from TAS PHN say, around training GPs just to get what is going on. Because like you're saying, we're at the local level. If a young person comes to you and they want support and they really, you see they could benefit from a prescription from a GP, we need to know where to send them. So if there are doctors out there who are willing to do it, are they doing it ethically and, within the guidelines? Because, I know there's a few dodgy ones. But again, if it's not, there's a unanimous voice around Tasmanian GPs saying we're not doing this, then it would also be good to know because we can relay that message. And I think that's where we get the win-win. If all GPs are saying no, then, ideally Tasmania would be no, there's no prescriptions in, and we're finding it's
are you saying for under 18s? Are you talking about under 18s?
Whether it's under 18s or over 18s, I think it would be good to know what the RCGPA guidelines are, and two, whether the doctors are willing to follow the guidelines, whether to prescribe or not to prescribe.
Because the guidelines are out there, the draft guidelines are out there, and it is around prescribing. So that's definitely there. Then it's going to be all the things that you've brought up. Yeah. We saw the draft guidelines. Susie, you might have seen them too. I don't know, but I don't know if they now ticked off and that's it. I don't know. I just saw the draft ones, and there was certainly prescription stuff and all that, but just the under 18, I'm not sure, but I'd imagine that they would be getting education to prescribe them. But like you said, dodgy doctors and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's a different one.
I think I've got a prime example. I picked up somebody, I didn't really know them very well, from the prison. And so I thought a great opportunity to have an AOD conversation with a client, just fresh out of prison, picked him up at the gates, got him in the car, and I said to him, how's life? You got any AOD problems? No, everything's great. I said, so you're not using any AOD? I had prior knowledge, secret prior knowledge that he had. So I was like, okay. And he said, yeah, no, don't have an issue. Everything's good. And I said, are you a smoker? No, I'm not a smoker. And I said, oh, that's good. And I said, oh, so what was you in for? And he said, selling, distributing drugs. And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, yeah. Plus I need to see the doctor. I want to go on cannabis oil, like prescript for going on medicinal. And I said, oh, that's for pain. He goes, no, I don't want any pain. I just want to get it cheap. And I said, well, you know that you're not going to access that through the health service, because we're a holistic health service. We'll work out where your pain is and work on that before we give you. He goes, yeah, well, I don't have any pain, but as far as they're concerned, I am going to have some pain. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, and he said, oh, look, I don't smoke, but I do put spin in my chuff that I smoke. And I got just done so many years for distributing. And so there was, I don't have a drug problem. Don't smoke. I don't have any pain, but I need to go on this medicinal marijuana because it's going to be cheaper. And so there's this whole, he's going to rock up to some doctor. He's going to tell them, I've got all this pain, I need this. He doesn't have a smoking problem, but he's just done time in prison. And you just think in the real world, what a doctor sees in a 10-minute consult to what I get in, a 40-minute drive. I have community knowledge. I have everything laid out to me before and can target my questions. And I have family knowledge of his family. All of this, that's really hard. And so here's this person in total, I don't know, acceptance. I don't even know if it's denial. I just don't think he really truly didn't think he was a smoker. He truly didn't think he had any AOD issues, even though he'd just done time for drugs. And he was about to try and get a doctor's appointment for his marijuana oil. So, I mean, that's one of 20 consults I do a day. And so, I think sometimes these systems, I think we're going to get the true ones. I think people that really want to think, I'm smoking, I'm going to go and try this because this might be my way out. And I want to really, and vaping might be the way to quit. And they have true, but other people are just using the system that's put there. My thoughts.
And that's the way of the world, hey? Always has been, always will be like that, I think,
Thank you. It's 11:58. I have put my survey link in the chat. If you could please do it, including presenters. You can, I've put in a question about your presentations, but you could talk about each other's, and a great general discussion.
So mine wasn't
today.
I'll fess up, it wasn't a presentation, but when I looked at that, I thought, people can read the TGA. It's there, it's clear, it's good. More than me going on about things. It's good to have that reference point. So I will give you some time during this meeting to fill in the survey feedback, because I'm like, that's the best way to get people to actually fill it in. I know everyone loves the survey. And usually what I like to finish with is one thing you learnt today, one thing that really popped out. I'll go around my screen. Arena, you're first for me. Lots. There's not.
Yes,
just
today.
Everything together today has been good. The conversation has been good. I can't think of one thing just that, but I have learned from everybody that I can see on the screen. Sorry, haven't got one. Right. Conversation. Okay.
Susie?
For me, what has been reassuring, what I've learned is opportunity. So, I mean, this group are directly working with people on the ground that we would love to hear from. So, any opportunity that we can work across different groups, and we've found that it's the best way, most comfortable way for community to be able to share their views if there's a middle person, if you know what I mean. So that connection of connections is how we allow that community voice to be heard. So for me, I think all the opportunities.
Great, thank you. Jessica? I can see you're filling in the survey. 10 points to you.
I think for me, conversation, but I think I feel a bit naive in saying this, but one of the things that I thought I hadn't realised the significance of was vaping being so much harder to quit than smoking because of the reasons why people are choosing to vape over smoking. And so I think for me that's super helpful in terms of framing what we're doing with young people and how we're going about it and stuff. So yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Cecilia.
I think from this one just stresses the aspect of core design. I know we've sort of somewhat talked about, like what the guidelines are and what's really happening on the ground. And I think to create a link between any regulation, any recommendations, any evidence, I think it's also good to feed in what's happening into the ground. A good example is what Susie's talking about with young people. Who would have thought vaping would now force us to look into sexually transmitted diseases and all this. Yeah. So there's a lot of room for linking the top and the bottom. And I feel like this is one conversation where I think we need to start from the bottom, to be honest, to inform the top other than the other way around. But I think core design. Yeah.
I can see Irina nodding. She's loving what you're saying there, Cecilia. Yeah. Great. Tina?
Yeah, I was the same as Cecilia. That was, thank you, Suzanne. That was just amazing. I learned so much. The younger space probably is my most not naive space. So, so getting a better understanding and answering those questions was great because I was not there. Yes, the herpes stuff, I'm heading straight round to the health service to inform my health team and say this is something that we need to be aware of and something we probably didn't ever think of. And I was like, whoa. And as a health service, I think that's really important. So thank you, everybody. So I love that. And yeah, I love just the way that we can all work together. Is really good, those conversations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That is fantastic. A great note to end on, and mine was, of course, the herpes link as well.
Yeah, mine
And
was
poor
also the
kids
herpes. I sort of forgot about, but yeah, the herpes was definitely the thing. But yeah, everything, yeah. But
You
good,
know,
yeah,
I mean,
sorry.
you don't want to condone it by providing them a clean space to put their vapes, but surely that's better than toilet cisterns. And I did see an article that we shouldn't be calling them sanitary items or feminine hygiene products. They should be called menstrual products because we call toilet paper, so we don't have to make female things unclean or imply they're unclean.
Absolutely, yes.
Bit of a segue anyway. Have a
Yeah.
lovely day. Thanks so much for
Thanks
your time.
so much. Thank you.
Great
Nice to
conversation,
see you
everyone.
all.
Great.
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.